Welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast, your home for weekly information and inspiration to help you get the graduate job of your dreams.
Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of the Graduate Job Podcast. Today I speak with author and blogger Mildred Talabi as we cover how to effectively use social media in your job hunt. Not sure on the best way to use LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook and Google+? Then this is the episode for you. Ready? Let's go straight to episode 5.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Graduate Job Podcast. I'm very excited to be speaking today to Mildred Talabi. Mildred is an award-winning careers blogger, speaker and writer with over 8 years' experience in the careers industry. She is the author of 7 Keys to a Winning CV and the recently launched Science of Successful Job Hunting. Mildred, welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast.
Hello James, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
I've given the listeners a brief introduction, but before we dive into our topic today, would you like to introduce yourself in more detail and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yes. Okay, so I have been, as you mentioned, I've been doing speech mark careers for about 8 years now. And funnily enough, I actually got into it by accident because my background is in the media and I trained as a journalist and worked in the media for a while. And it was while working as the assistant editor of a magazine about 7 or so years ago that I actually had to recruit people as well as do everything else that I had to do as part of my role. And that's when I came into contact with so many awful CVs, cover letters, and that people were just sending to us, that after a while my entrepreneurial mindset kind of kicked in and said, you know what? I think there's a market here for me to help people to create CVs, application forms, cover letters, that sort of thing that will help people get jobs. And it's something I started doing on the side as well as working in the media. And then fast forward all these years, it's just kind of really taken over and replaced my main job. So I'm no longer in the media as such. And the careers thing is the main thing that I do. I write a careers blog fairly weekly. I run roughly once a week on my website, mildredtalabi.com. And and I'd run workshops and I give talks at colleges, universities and other employment events, and I enjoy helping people get jobs, really. That's one of the things I'm really into. So yeah, this is great.
Excellent. And today we're going to cover a topic which I've been asked quite a few times about by students, and one that you cover in depth in your book, which is using social media to help you find a job. Yeah. So, starting from the beginning, imagine I'm at university or I've recently graduated. Where and how would you recommend that I use social media in my job search?
That's really good. So, as you mentioned, it is one of the key themes of the Science of Successful Job Hunting, because the whole idea behind the book is that job hunting is a science, as in you don't do it by accident. There are certain things that you can do and there are certain principles you can apply that will guarantee you certain results. So when it comes to using social media in your job search, I think the great thing about graduates today is that you're in a privileged position of having social media to use in your job search. Because in my days, and that makes me sound really old, but when I went to university, we didn't even have Facebook. We honestly didn't have Facebook. We had instant messenger and things like that, but it's advanced so much, and the fact that social media has grown so rapidly is just an indication of how important it's going to be as well in the future. So if you're not already on it, get on it. But I would say that the main ones that I recommend for now are LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook if you use it correctly, and Google Plus is a rising star definitely in that field. But if you're in a more creative environment, things like Instagram are also useful, Instagram, Pinterest. But the whole idea of social media is creating an online brand for yourself and using it to get yourself out there, get yourself in front of employers and get employers to notice you, and also build an online portfolio that will sell you in the job market in addition to your CVs and everything else you do outside of the social media sphere.
So maybe starting with LinkedIn, because I think that's the most common one from a professional perspective. I know just recent survey by Right Management found that 94% of job candidates said that LinkedIn was their top social media site.
Yeah.
could you give us a bit more information on, what LinkedIn and what LinkedIn is and how people should use it?
Yes, absolutely. LinkedIn is actually the oldest of all the four main ones that I mentioned. In fact, of all the ones I mentioned, because that started before Facebook, around about 2002, I believe it was. So LinkedIn was started as a professional network. So the whole idea of it was and is for people to connect with each other in a professional setting. So unlike Facebook, which started as more of a social thing, LinkedIn is pretty much has always been about work and profession and advancing in that way. Now, the beauty of LinkedIn is that it's a really great way of, A, making contacts in the field that you want to go into, but also, B, having a place where you can interact and connect with your contacts on a regular basis. And then also the third additional one is that from the contacts that you can get to know other contacts through the whole first degree connection, second degree connection that LinkedIn uses. So you can expand your network very well through LinkedIn and keep it professional. And because it allows you to it's like a social media version of your CV. So it allows you to upload your CV and you can edit it as you want to and have your picture there. And also it allows you to have recommendations, which are the equivalent of job references on CV. So it's almost like having everything that the employer needs right there in front of you. So if somebody's looking at your profile, they should be able to make a good judgment of what you're about. And if they're interested, they can contact you from there. So there's so many ways to use LinkedIn, but I think that would be my number one tool for job seekers to use today.
What are the best ways that people can, so having signed up, they've got a LinkedIn account, how can they optimize it so it's going to be most efficient for their job hunt?
There's so many ways. In the book, I list 5 key ways to optimize your LinkedIn profile. And the first one I talk about is having a profile picture, and a very good profile picture. Now, there's so many people who, they put up LinkedIn profile and there's no picture with it. The good thing about having pictures is that when you see a picture of somebody, it allows you to build connection even further with them, and it builds a trust. When somebody doesn't have a picture and you're communicating with a silhouette, it's not quite the same. But also on that note, having a picture, it's not just, don't just whack on any old picture of yourself at a party or something like that. Just, find a nice professional picture of yourself that you can put up there, and better still, use on your LinkedIn and across all your social media, because it's about being consistent with your brand, because whether you know it or not, you are a brand. So yeah, I would say the first one is have a good profile picture. Then in the book, I've got a professional photographer, Miles Willis, who I worked with, and he gives he does a whole chapter on how you can take a good picture if you don't have the budget to pay for a professional. And then the second thing would be to write your headline. So the headline is what people see when next to your name. So write a headline that captures who you are and what you're about professionally. Third, number 3, I would say import the best parts of your CV. So unlike your CV, where you pretty much include everything in terms of what you've done, with your LinkedIn, you can target it to a particular industry. So if you're looking at going into marketing and you've got retail on your CV, you don't have to include that on your LinkedIn profile, because it's up to you to be as flexible with it as you want. Number 4, we talked about recommendations already, but definitely get recommendations. These are from people you've worked with, maybe lecturers, if you haven't, have had that much experience at work. So just people who can endorse you and say, yep, this person is a great character and this is what they can bring to your organization. So that's important to get. And then lastly, it's just to have what is called a vanity URL. So once you do have your LinkedIn set up, you just have a URL that has your name on it. So it'll be linkedin.com/Mildred Talabi, or whatever your name is. So just so it's easier to share around. And also you can then include that on your CV, which I highly recommend doing when you have a good LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, you make some brilliant points there, and just touching at the end on the vanity URL, that's one of the things that, after having read the book, I know I need to go back to my LinkedIn profile and just double check if I've actually done that, and if not, to make sure I get a decent one. But the first point you made around the picture, I think it's such an important part. And as you mentioned, if you see profiles without a picture, it immediately creates suspicions in your mind when if you can't see the person and begin to create that bond with who you're going to be speaking to. It's difficult. But also you see lots of people with very ropey pictures taken on phones, or the old classic where they've got their arm around somebody and they've sliced off half a person next to them, like on dating profiles. And it's so cheap now to get a professional picture done. I know the Snappy Snaps picture place at the end of my street. They've got a special big advert in the front of their window saying, "Get your professional LinkedIn picture done here."
Oh wow, that's keeping up with the times.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's cheap as well. Like, for £20 or maybe less, you can get a really good picture, proper background, so you can look professional. And as you said, you can then get it across the different formats we're going to talk about today, whether it's LinkedIn, have that picture on your Twitter profile, your professional Twitter profile as well, so you can create that standard image.
And the thing about the pictures, when you do have a good picture, you can keep the same picture for about 2 years, 2 to 3 years, because our faces don't change that often when we become adults. So if you're making an investment like as you said, like £20 for a LinkedIn profile, that's a very good investment spread out over 3 years. So it's well worth making sure you have a good picture online.
Yep, and also the point you made on recommendations, I agree, can be very powerful. But if you are sending recommendations to people, don't just do the bog standard send recommendation where it then comes across to the person who receives it. It just says, "Hi, please recommend me."
Yes.
If you're going to do it, tailor them a 30-second note. "Hey, Barry, please could you give me a recommendation specifically focusing on X, Y, and Z?" Because otherwise I've had loads come through where if the person can't even be bothered to send me a 30-second note asking exactly what they want, then why should I spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes drafting them a recommendation?
Absolutely, I agree, and I have the same policy as well. So yeah, that's something that you need to take time and do properly.
Another useful thing I found is with LinkedIn is being able to then follow the companies that you're specifically interested in. So then you can keep on top of when they've got jobs available, or if they're having new business openings or mergers or etc. It just allows you to keep on top of the latest news related to those companies, and also if they can see that you're following them, it immediately shows that you've got an interest in that company. Yeah,
and an additional benefit to that as well is when you have people in your network who are connected to that company, LinkedIn will let you know. So if they do have a job vacancy going, so instead of going directly, you can maybe go through a warm contact that you already have and maybe get some tips or advice from them on how to succeed in this particular company, and then go back and do your application. So it's definitely a good way to get in there sometimes, yeah.
Okay, so then moving on to something I know which is close to your heart, Twitter. Follow you on Twitter. You're a very avid tweeter. I saw that The Guardian named you as one of the top career tweeters of 2014. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So how can
awards didn't exist like a year ago.
How can people then make effective use of Twitter, not just as a way to keep in touch with friends, but as a job hunting tool?
Yes, again, Twitter, what I really love about Twitter, and I think the main benefit to somebody who's job hunting is that in the old days, if you wanted to get in touch with a hiring manager or a HR person, CEO, etc., whatever it is of the company you want to work for, you'd have to drop them an email and hope you get a response, or you can pick up the phone and call, and usually you get put through to a receptionist or a secretary whose sole job it is to stop you from gaining access because this person's really busy and they don't want to hear from you. So what now happens with Twitter is that this middleman has now gone, middleman or middlewoman, because on Twitter, the CEOs, especially those who are trying to, keep up to date with technology, they're there, they're tweeting they've got their own accounts. So now you can connect directly with people. You can connect directly with employers. You can connect directly with HR managers. You can connect directly with people who are out there tweeting, looking to build an audience and a following for themselves as well. So you can now have direct conversations, whereas before you had to pass through gatekeepers, which is very difficult. So I think that's one of the biggest benefits of Twitter is that you can just get straight there. Having said that, though, it doesn't mean that the best way to use Twitter is not to tweet people and say, please hire me or please give me a job. Because, that won't work. You know, first of all, like with all social media, it's all about building relationship. It's about developing relationship with people and building relationship. And if I'm honest with you, sometimes it can take a while. You know, it's not an instant quick fix. Okay, I'm on Twitter now. Tomorrow I'm gonna get a job. It doesn't work like that. It's just bear it in mind that this is a long-term strategy in terms of social media. It's developing your brand, it's building your online brand, it's building your connections and your networks, all preparing you for when that time comes, when you may need to move on, and maybe for your first job or your second job or your third job. But doing all that now is really helpful for those times. So it's using Twitter to get in touch directly with those people who are out there. And then you can also use Twitter to follow thought leaders in your industry. So again, similar to what you mentioned and following pages, is it keeps you up to date with what's happening in your industry and what articles you should be reading and possibly retweeting as well. So you can show that you're engaged and you understand what's happening in your industry. And then finally, you can actually get a job through it directly. So in the book, I've got example of a young lady called Orike who graduated in Germany and was able to get a job in London in social media via Twitter. So it's things that it happens all the time. You can get a job directly through Twitter as well. And it has its own job search mechanisms that you can use using hashtags, which is all, that's more the detailed version of it. But as a basic, it's really a good way to stay in touch with employers and to stay in touch with what's happening in your industry and jobs that are out there.
So you mentioned not just getting in touch with people directly saying, hi, can I have a job, please? Mm. How would you recommend then going about building that interaction and building a presence on Twitter?
Yeah, I'd say first of all, so when you first start following people, it's engage with their content. So if they're tweeting, you know, so maybe they've tweeted an article they've read and liked. And if you've got something to say about that article, just, retweet it. Because by retweeting, you're increasing their exposure and they'll be happy with that. But to also just drop them a quick response and say, hey, great read. I particularly enjoyed X, Y, and Z. So that could initiate a conversation. So, for example, with my Twitter, I don't have massive followers. I have about 2,000 or something at the moment, but
that's still pretty big.
Yeah, but for some people, I have thousands and thousands. But I do my very best to get back to everybody who replies to me directly. So it's a case of most people have that kind of mindset about it. So if someone's taken the time out to read one of my blogs and they leave a comment and reply to me on Twitter and say, hey, I enjoy this, etc., I would in turn go back, check out their profile, and then I would send a response. So already, just by that small interaction, you're now on my radar where you may not have been before. So, and if you do this often, so if you constantly engage with somebody, not all the time because you might look a bit stalkerish, you know, but if you just, I don't know, maybe every so often just drop them a quick comment and not just, be genuine. Don't just flatter, but genuinely, oh, I read this and this was good. And maybe if you see something that you think might interest them, send them a link and say, hey, I read this, thought of you. But it's just building and developing that relationship. And what happens is your name starts to become familiar to that person. And it means that you're softening the relationship. Whereas it was a cold contact, now it's getting warmer and warmer. And if the day comes that, let's say, a position comes up in their company or something like that, and then you apply, it's like, oh yeah, I know her from Twitter, or I know him from Twitter, and the relationship has now been established that wasn't there before. So it's the slow roast method, but it works. It's more effective for building longer term relationships.
No, definitely. And as you mentioned, if you're going to tweet, then make sure it's something interesting. Make sure it's a interesting article that you've read, or something that's going to be relevant to the industry, specifically that you're interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, so as I said, I would go and I would check this person's profile. Now, a lot of people waste the opportunity that the profile gives. So where you have the opportunity to write a small bio of yourself that explains what you're about. I've seen people write things like cat lover. You know? And it's like, okay, that tells me nothing. It tells me nothing about you. It's just nothing. So again, if you're going to use Twitter professionally, make sure that your profile is something like, I would make it a short summary of what you would put at the personal profile of your CV. So something that summarizes who you are, what you're about, what your interests are. So if I'm looking at you, let's say I'm an employer and I work in marketing, and you want to get into marketing, and on your profile, if it says marketing graduate looking for next big break, love cats, you can add the love cats at the end, but just don't let it be the only thing on your profile. So at least now that gives me more information about you, and it makes me think, okay, I'll bear that in mind just in case I've got something going on. So yeah, don't miss that opportunity to again sell yourself in your profile.
No, definitely. And I think it's a really key point you mentioned with the professional aspect is, if you want to be tweeting socially, have two distinct accounts. Have a personal account and have a professional account.
Yeah.
And you want to be keeping the two separately. You don't want to be 1 minute tweeting people about marketing graduate looking for an internship, and then the next messaging your mates talking about, going out that night or something you've just seen on TV that was LOL.
Yeah.
Draw that distinction between the professional and the personal.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that.
So moving on to another area where the professional and personal might blur is Facebook. So you talk in the book about how people can use Facebook. Can you actually use Facebook in a job hunting sense, or is it just a question of damage limitation?
Very good question. I think probably the first would be damage limitation, because a lot of people, myself included, when I first started using Facebook, it was on a social basis, and I didn't intend to use it professionally. But that was, I don't know, around about the early days when Facebook started. But so along the way, I realized that I wanted to use my Facebook professionally, but I'd used it socially quite a bit. So what I actually did, like what you said in Twitter, I have two Facebook accounts. I have my personal private one, which is under a completely different name, and hopefully no one will ever find me on it, except for the small circle of friends and family members that I've got on there. And then I've got my public professional one, which anybody can see and view. So I think the first way, because so many people start off Facebook socially, and it is meant to be more a social than a professional network, is damage limitation. So it's about being aware of the fact that most employers these days do Google you, and when they Google you beforehand, Facebook is one of the ones that comes up tops, and they can see you can see quite a lot without being friends with somebody. You can see a lot of in terms of their profile, their postings, because Facebook are always, their privacy settings, as we all know, are not the best, even if you are quite diligent at making sure everything's ticked off or unticked, etc. There's still that danger that there might be things out there about you that Facebook are allowing to show up in the stream, in the search fields, that don't do you justice. So I'd say the first thing is damage limitation. Use it to make sure your pictures that you post of yourself, if you don't want them, I have a general rule: if you don't want them public, don't use the internet. Go back to the old days of, I don't know, send it by text message, print and download pictures, maybe send it by email, but don't put it out there on social media, because who knows, one day the whole internet will be widely open and everything we put out there will be public regardless of privacy settings. But that's another film in itself. Yep. But so I would say, first of all, damage control on Facebook, but you can also use it professionally in terms of, again, because it's all about a network. There's a different network that you attract on Facebook than you would on LinkedIn, for example. So with Facebook, it tends to be friends, family, people you know a little bit closer. And in the book, I talk about how one of the things to realize about job hunting is that it's a process that involves everybody. So although it's you looking for a job, the more you can get the people around you involved in your job search process, the better it is, because now you have a big network of people looking out for you in jobs that are within your field. So this is how you can use Facebook. You can use it every so often, just let people know what you're looking for, put things out there around your area, and just get it into people's minds that, okay, you know, Mildred is looking for, I don't know, marketing jobs. So if anybody sees anything around that area, they'll be triggered by that memory because you post about it so often, or you post about marketing, and then they'll contact you hopefully and give you a lead that may help you get the next job. So that's one way. Another way is also, again, company pages. Companies they have their pages on Facebook, which you can follow and like in the same way that you can on LinkedIn. So that's also a good way of getting an understanding of what a company is like, the culture of a company, because their website tends to be quite formal and it's, you know, this is who we are, buttoned up. But on Facebook, most companies are a bit more informal, so you can get to see behind the scenes a little bit more. And then you can also get to engage with some of the people who are responsible for the pages. So that's one way, and also get job postings when they put it out there. So I think Facebook can help you in that way, in terms of using it to research companies, using it to promote yourself, and then lastly, just using it. You know, so there's a lot of people, again, this is in the book, but a lot of people say, oh, Facebook is rubbish, but that's because they set up an account and then they turn up maybe once every 2 weeks and say, oh, there's nothing happening, it's rubbish. But to get the most out of it, you have to use it, and that's engaging with it pretty much on a daily basis where possible, or at least several times a week, so you can keep that network active and keep it working for you when you're not there as well.
Mm. Go back to what you said about people, you know, searching the internet when they're going to be interviewing you. That's exactly what I used to do when I was given a list of people that I was to have telephone interviews with. The first thing I'd do out of interest would just be to Google them, see what came up, see if there's anything of interest. And a recent survey, which I'll link to in the show notes, by careerbuilder.co.uk, said that just under half of all recruiters used social media to search for candidates. Mm-hmm. And of that half, apparently, take these statistics with a pinch of salt, but apparently 55% of employers who research candidates on social media said they found something that caused them not to hire the candidate.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
just be careful with the things, not just that you post, but also that your friends might post about you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that one's probably even worse, because I'm very guarded about what I post. But then it's when other people post and they tag you in it, I'm very quick to review. First of all, have the setting where you have to review the tag before it shows up on your page. And then if it's not something you approve of, immediately untag yourself and take it down, because otherwise it will show up and it will be connected to you somehow. So yeah, it's very important to be aware of that too.
Yep. A top tip is to set up a Google alert. With Google, you can set up an alert for certain words. So it could be your name. And then whenever there's anything posted or on Google or posted on the internet which fits those words, you'll get an email. It can be once a day, and it'll just tell you what's come up. So it's an easy way to just check if there's anything in the public realm that could impact you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, Mildred, we're nearly running out of time, but I wanted to touch upon something that personally I've not used, but you recommend, which is Google+.
Yes, Google+. And the reason I recommend it is actually Google+ is the baby of the social media platform. It's only been going for about 2 years or so, but it's already the second highest. It's already got the second amount of users right after Facebook. So it's climbing quite quickly. And the thing about it is, because it's Google, and Google will take over the world one day probably, but it's all interlinked with the rest of Google. So it's interlinked with YouTube, it's interlinked with Google search and everything else, Gmail, etc. Which means that once you have a profile on Google+, your searchability in Google goes up as well, because they're tied in together. and it's like a bridge between LinkedIn and Facebook. Is the way I see Google Plus. It's a professional setting, but it gives you a bit more space to connect with people than LinkedIn, who are quite strict in terms of how you connect with people as well. So I would definitely say look into it. And more employers are going down that avenue of using Google Plus, and they're doing it through things like Google Hangout, which at the beginning I mentioned that I did my book launch through Google Hangout, which is it's like a Skype conference call thing, but that Google allows you to do, where you can interact with viewers and make videos that go live to the whole public. And some employers are using it as a means of sharing information about their firms, and they're also using it as a way to interview candidates as well. So they're using tools like Google Hangout to interview candidates over the computer, saves them from doing face-to-face interviews. So I think it's definitely one to watch for the future, and it's one to dip your toes in now, and so that when that feature does come, you've already started on it. And again, same way to all the other profiles. It's about setting up your profile correctly, making sure that picture and your bio is consistent with what's everywhere else about you. B, second thing is to create circles to separate your connections. So similar to LinkedIn, it allows you to have groups of people who have particular interests. So you can create what's called circles, and that will group all your different people, the different people that you're connected with. So you can have a marketing group, for example. You can have a possible job contact. You can even have a friends group. And the good thing about that is if you wanted to post something that you want your friends to see, but you don't want your professional network to see, then you would just post it and then share with your friends circle. So it's really, really good, and in terms of how it helps you connect with people. And there's other tips in the book on how you can make use of Google Plus. But I think most importantly, because of the fact that A, it's growing so rapidly, B, more and more employers are turning onto it, and people are turning off Facebook and into things like Google Plus. And C, because it's so connected with Google, so it's got all these additional benefits. I think it's well worth joining, at least to join, and then look into it as you go from there.
Yeah, I'll have to get the Graduate Job podcast hooked up then with Google Plus, because at the moment, yeah, as I said, I've not used it, so it's definitely something that I will investigate.
Absolutely.
Mildred, thank you very much for your time. Unfortunately, we're out of time now. But before we finish, what's the best way for the listeners to get in touch with you and the work that you do?
Oh, great. Yeah, well, I am active on all the social networks I mentioned under my real name, Mildred Talabi. So you can tweet me at Mildred Talabi, or better still, if you go to my website, www.mildredtalabi.com, you can get in touch with me through there, and also sign up to my careers newsletter, which comes out roughly once a week, features my latest blog, which has tips, advice on job hunting that you can use. So I would say go to www.mildredtalabi.com. You can also find details on how to get a copy of my new book, The Science of Successful Job Hunting, from that website.
Excellent. And a special bonus prize for anybody who can track down Mildred's hidden Facebook account.
No, don't look.
Mildred, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you on the Graduate Job Podcast.
Thank you, James.
Graduate Job Podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been great.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again to Mildred Talabi for sharing her excellent advice on social media. In terms of my personal top 3 points to take away from this episode, firstly, let's start with LinkedIn. Get a professional picture taken. Perception is reality. So if you have a professional picture, guess what? That's how people will view you. It's cheap to do, and it'll make you stand out from the majority of people with selfies and pictures culled from dating websites. Also with LinkedIn, as Mildred says, use the best parts of your CV. Think about the job you're going for and make sure that everything you include is relevant and tailored specifically to that job and industry. Secondly, Twitter. As Mildred says, it's an amazing tool for engaging with people and building relationships, especially people that you probably wouldn't come into contact with on a day-to-day basis. For me though, the key point is the engagement. Make it interesting and relevant, but don't expect instant results. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's a process of slowly engaging with people over time and building that relationship and building that online presence. Finally, Facebook. but this is true for all the other social media sites as well. For me, this is all about damage limitations. Believe me, employers will be checking your online digital footprint, so make sure they won't find anything that you don't want them to see. Follow Mildred's advice, and if you wouldn't be happy with your current or future employer seeing it, don't put it online in the first place. So there you go, episode 5 on social media in the bag. The full transcript of today's episode can be found on the website at graduatejobpodcast.com/social media. Do get in touch with us on social media at Twitter at gradjobpodcast. And finally, please leave a review on iTunes. I read everyone and it's great to hear your feedback. Do join us next week when we have author, coach and blogger David Schindler discussing the transition from university to work. I hope you enjoyed the episode today, but more importantly, I hope you use it and apply it. See you next week.